5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Welcome to the podcast, Joe.
Oh, thanks, Jeff.
This is our second try at this. Someone didn't hit the record button on the audio, so shame on me.
Blame me.
Every time we do one of these things, we find something that we didn't do. Like last time, one of the lights was in on the corner of the screen. We couldn't see it on the camera, but when we played it back, it was there the entire time. So
Did you edit it out?
negative.
Oh.
Negative. We went right. We just kept going
Oh, you can
like a
but
train.
The post, you can edit it out.
You can edit the whole corner out.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
you can change the size. You can put a frame on it and gone.
Oh, see, now we know. Yep.
Yeah.
See,
Headshot.
that's why I love having people on. It's everyone gets a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. So we'll get
Mine
there
stayed
eventually.
The same, and I did quite a few. So
Yeah, well, that's because you're smarter than I am.
Same quality. The only thing that changed was I got lights,
Yeah.
and that helped. But the rest was still a mess. But it is what it is.
Was it you that showed me the lights?
box lights?
Yes,
Yeah,
that was from you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, they're
Well,
great. 'Cause
You'll
they're
have to
soft.
sign those before you leave.
Oh, yes. So that it can burn on fire from the light.
So if anybody out there in YouTube land doesn't know Joe, I've only known Joe for a couple of years, but he is hands down one of my favorite human beings in the world. He's one of the people that I look forward to talking to all the time, and he's an absolute sweetheart. And
Oh, thanks.
I love you, man.
I do.
And so with that being said, you spent a little time in Mexico.
I did. I love you too, by the way. But yes, I did. I went to Mexico for a couple weeks ago on vacation and unplugged. And you're one of the few people I text back. So
Nice.
Feel lucky. That shows that I care because I ignored almost everyone. The only person I didn't ignore was my mom because she got a hip replacement before I left.
How's she
And
doing?
like, she's good now.
Good.
Yeah.
It's amazing what they can do with technology nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, she's in pain, but like,
Yeah.
that's what vodka's for. So she's thriving. She's getting around a lot better. It's been 2 weeks and she's already moving better than she did for like 3 or 4 years. So I'm really happy for her. But I went to Mexico because I needed to get away from everything and everyone.
Yep.
And it was the best vacation of my life.
Nice. I'm scared to go on vacation. I'm not going to lie. Although I do need to go away on vacation. One thing me and the wife, we talk about it all the time, but with her brain injury, it's hard. Flying is difficult.
Yeah. If there's turbulence or anything, that probably is not good for a TBI.
Yeah, so it starts for us when we first get in the airport. It's the noise, it's the light, it's the total movement. Once we get her in the chair, she's a little okay. Once we get on the plane, there's that whole anticipation. She's okay once we get up in the air a little bit, but the cabin pressure definitely plays a role. I think I don't know how many years ago it was, 7 years ago maybe, around there, 6 years ago, we went to Miami for a buddy of mine's wedding. And it was really hard on her to go and do that. So we definitely have to be a little more selective on where we go.
Well, you could drive to Miami.
Can we drive to Mexico?
You can drive to Miami and fly to Mexico.
That's true.
You can't drive into Mexico. So the Mexican border is closed right now for driving through, but you can fly over. But there's a flight from Miami to Cancun, and it's 2 hours.
Yeah,
It's
so that's the
super-
other problem is driving a long distance. My parents used to live in South Carolina, and that ride used to kill her. There's some times where she cried, the whole way up and the whole way back. Just the,
Have
it's
you
tough.
tried, a sensory deprivation, anything?
So, it's funny that you talked about that. She just texted me that in East Hampton, Mass, that they have a deprivation tank that they're putting in. So that's definitely something we're going to kind of look at and see if that helps her at all.
Yeah, I mean, they make sensory deprivation masks for very different purposes, but that could help on her trip. It
You're-
look funny driving, but
Yeah.
with her completely covered. But it's like a hood for.
Try to keep that
for a
mic
hug.
this way if you can. It's having a hard time picking up on you.
This way.
There you go.
Is this
Perfect.
better?
Yeah,
Okay.
you can move it like this. So this part has to be towards you. There we go.
It's too tall.
Perfect. You can put it down.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm a midget.
That's why I got these. These were a lot more expensive than I wanted to spend, but it does all sorts of ranges and for all people of different sizes and shapes and stuff like that. So, you can all, it works everywhere, so we're good.
I
So
see that.
so Mexico Mexico was really good.
Mexico was amazing. I lost 15 pounds before I went, and then I gained the 15 pounds while I was there. So I'm at net 0, but
Better than being plus
better
30.
than being, I've got one pair of pants that fits, and it's the one that's on. So, yeah, better than being plus 30. This button's gonna take somebody's eye out. Any day now. I'll be teaching a class. And it'll just, bing!
That's one thing I hate doing is going any kind of clothes shopping right now because I just feel awful and I walk out and I just kind of I feel sad.
The only place I will go clothes shopping right now is Primark because it's cheap. Have you ever been to Primark?
No, what is that?
Oh my god! So
Is that like a
there's-
Savers?
No,
No.
it's nice. It's nice inside, but wherever human trafficking creates it, it's very, very, very inexpensive. So it's like child labor inexpensive, like $9 for a pair of pants.
Is it really?
Like, yeah, I mean, some of them are 20,
Right.
but
But 20 bucks. Yeah, you can-
25
yeah.
bucks for a pair of pants. Like, and they've got men's clothes, women's clothes, some house goods shit. Like, there's one in the Burlington Mall.
Okay.
And there are a couple other ones. I think there's one in the South Plaza, like in Braintree, or the Braintree Mall, that huge mall in Braintree, which I went a few weeks ago and had an anxiety attack.
Oh, I could imagine. I don't go anywhere near the mall.
I was like,
Not
"There's
unless
too
I
many
absolutely
people
have
in
to.
this mall." But I got a second pair of pants that fits, and they're drawstring, so
Yep.
I can't snap a button on those.
You're gonna have to text me that later because
Yeah.
the wife likes to take little road trips every now and then. That'd be a great place to go look.
It's really pretty surprisingly organized every time I go in for the amount of people that go through there.
Yep.
But it's like, and they've got licensed stuff, so they had like Nintendo T-shirts and stuff
Oh,
like
wow.
that for $8 to $15.
I like
So,
those retro T-shirts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, Tetris. I think I saw a Tetris one there a while ago. So it's really great place to shop. You have to. Well, the changing rooms are closed, but you have to hold it up to your waist to make sure that the measurement is accurate. But it's a British store that came over.
Isn't that still weird that dressing rooms are closed? I mean,
I don't know.
I'm the
People
kind of-
are fucking filthy and disgusting in dressing rooms. Do you not know what people have you? Never
yeah, I don't.
worked
I very rarely
retail?
go into one, but I should because I buy clothes and then I get home and I'm like, and I'm not somebody who has the mental fortitude to go back and exchange things. If my wife won't do it for me, then it just goes in a drawer and I forget about it. And then hopefully one day I'll be in that size again, and then I'll take it back out and it's like a new toy, like if I was a kid. Here it is.
Except for it's 14 seasons out of style, but no big deal. Everything comes back around.
Right. It's as long as
give
you
it
wait on
20
it long
years.
enough. Yep.
You should be able to return things though.
I just don't have the. I don't know what it is. I've always been that way. If I buy something and it doesn't work, I just keep it. It's a weird thing.
Is it like a possession thing? Like, did you create a bond with it? And
Purely
now it's
laziness
yours? Oh,
is I'm going with that one first.
okay.
Yep.
Okay. It's not like when
I
you're
know
at
it's
the
a
beach
problem,
and you pick up
too.
a rock and suddenly the rock is yours and you
No.
can't let it go because you feel bad that the rock will feel bad that it didn't go home with you.
No, and then when if I clean out my drawers and I have to look at all this stuff that I have that I don't use and I'm like, why do I have this? So, but I don't do anything about it. It just goes back in that drawer and I repeat that process. Every
Until you can't close them.
if it gets to that point.
Mine get to that point. Then I'm like, trash. It's like 14 rips. It's more holes than a T-shirt. And I'm like, it's my pajama shirt. Because I'm a hoarder. Only a little. I try really hard to not hoard.
Do you
but
really?
I
Yeah?
have
Do you
hoarder
have the potential to
tendencies.
be one of those?
Oh,
Yeah?
God, yeah, it's really bad. My room is the cleanest it's ever been right now, or like until 2 days ago. Now there's a bunch of boxes in it because I got stuff delivered. But people are always like, your room is so cluttered. And I'm like, this is the cleanest it's been in my whole life. Like, stop insulting me. I hold on to everything because I'm a psychopath. Not really, but like, kind of. I am the person that's like, this rock is mine and it loves me and I love it and now I can't let it go. Like, I have bags of rocks from beaches.
Do you really?
because-
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I mean, at least you're honest about it. You
Yeah,
know?
no, I acknowledge my shortcomings, and that's one of them.
That's my worst, my worst fear. Like you watch those A&E shows where one person has one little path to every little room in their house. If they're lucky, they have that one little path. And my sinuses, before we go any further, are at like DEFCON 4 today. They just seem to be getting worse. And I take Allegra, I take Flonase, but this time of year, every year, I suffer until after the first snow hits, and then I'm good.
It's probably the rotting leaves.
I don't know what it is, man, but it's it's something I'm tortured with ever since I was a little kid.
Move somewhere warm.
I know I should. I just don't. I don't want to move. That's another phobia of mine. To think about all the things I would have to pack up in this house to move.
Hire somebody.
Oh, I know, but I'm too cheap.
I'll hire somebody.
I'm always that guy that like if you're moving, call me. Like I'm there.
Oh, good to know for next time. 'Cause
Yep.
I've recently been moving once a year, so
Yeah, but you got a nice place now. You
it's
said,
cute.
huh?
Yeah, I like it. I like living so close to the ocean. So I'm in Winthrop now, and I am like a mile and a half from the water. So in the summer, I was walking there, or I started running again for like a hot minute. I'm gonna start again. I have to. I really have to, so I can fit in my clothes. But I was running to the beach and then running on the beach, and I was like,
Yep.
I feel accomplished. This was the first time in my life I've ever had a runner's high. too.
Really?
I thought it was a myth. I was like, you people are on crack. There is no such thing as a
It's a
runner's
real thing.
high. All it does is hurt and make me puke. Like there's no like because I used to throw up every time I ran, but somehow I made it through, and I was like, I feel euphoric, and it was from whatever I did on that one run correctly. But
Right.
it was nice. I understand why people get addicted to it now. I obviously am not addicted to it, but I should.
Yeah. I used to be really big into the gym at one time years ago, and I couldn't get enough of it. No, and then we get a family and all those things and job and it's fine. And I say it's hard to find time, but trust me when I tell you, I had all the time in the world. I just didn't find it. But I did buy an exercise bike a couple weeks ago.
Are you using it?
Ask me how many times I got on it.
How many times have you got
One time. And it was a good one time though. Like I went 20 minutes, solid.
it? 20 minutes, and that's a good one time.
Yeah, on the verge of a coronary,
Yeah,
but I
you're
did
like,
it.
My pulse is 212. I can't see anymore.
What I should do though is to do like 5 minutes at a time and then do 10 minutes the next week, then work my way up.
Yeah, or do interval training on
Right.
it. So like you could like pedal fast and then pedal slow and then
Yep.
pedal fast. I'm doing the app that I was using. It's called Runkeeper for my run, and this is like this person in your ear that's like, we're walking now. Now we're gonna run, and she's super encouraging. And I was like, I like this. It feels like she's here, and that this isn't pre-recorded. But like, I'm not running 6 miles off the bat by myself. Like you have to work your way into it. And, like,
Right.
walk, run. So like, walk, bike.
That's the trick.
Yeah. So you don't die. Nobody wants to find you
Man.
dead on a bike.
Can you imagine that? Where's Jeff the last 3 days? You knock on the door and I'm slumped over a Peloton.
Half rotten. Oh, it's a Peloton?
No. I just tried to make
Oh,
myself
I was
look
like, you got
better.
a nice
yeah.
one.
It looks like a Peloton, but is I think it was like $325.
Oh,
So it's decent. Like it got
yeah, no, it's
great
nice.
reviews, but definitely not a Peloton. I don't.
You don't
Although
want to spend $3,000 on a
negative. Nope, not for a coat hanger.
bike? When my book comes out, I probably will.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be rich and it's going to blow up. I've told you about my book, right?
I heard it on when you're talking on Facebook.
Okay.
So if you want to let everybody know what the book's about today,
It's going to be. It is. It's in fruition. I paid to print it. The copyright is going through now. I'm very excited. This is the one thing that's gotten me through COVID and gotten me out of bed. But it's a very short 10-page picture book that is adult themed and for adults. And it's called If You Give a Gay a Grinder. And it's about app culture and hookup apps. And it's hilarious. But also very honest, because that's typically who I am.
that's one reason why I love you. You don't hold back. You say exactly how you're
do.
feeling.
It's
Well, you do it, and if you do, it's very constructive. You're very aware of people's feelings, and I think that's really important. That's the same way I try to be too. Like especially in the business that we're in, emotions are there.
lots of them.
Very creative people. So that's one thing that
I'm
was
sorry, did you say very crazy people? Yes. Yeah.
slash creative.
Yeah. No, you have to be crazy to be in the hair industry.
Yeah, it's crazy. And so, so let's talk about that book. What was the what made you do
triggered
this?
it?
Yeah.
Well, there was a lot going on at the time. I thought I was in an open relationship and I wasn't. So I was on Grindr thinking I was in an open relationship. I wasn't, apparently. So I was just cheated on my boyfriend and felt like shit after once we found out that we weren't, which was awful.
Yeah.
minor miscommunication. So I'm on there, and then I saw one of my friends on there, and I was like, "You slut, what are you doing on Grindr?" Because that's the friend I am. I'm like, "I see you," and we were chatting, and we were just talking about everything, and he's a teacher as well, and we were talking about, I don't know, some stupid shit, and then it came into like, if you give a gay a blah blah blah, like, and he was like if you give a mouse a cookie, and I was like, yeah, like if you give a gay a grinder, and then he was like, that could be a book, and I was like, it's going to be.
We're gonna make it so.
Yeah, I'll put you in a thank you. Like, I'm not giving you money, but thanks. And I actually ran with it. So I'm super ADHD, and I'm not medicated for it. Hopefully soon. I just got an EKG to clear me for stimulants so that I can be on medication. So maybe two of my thoughts connect someday. But finishing a project is virtually impossible for me. I start things and then I just leave them there half done, with almost everything except for hair, because somebody's paying me to do it. You can't just stop in the middle and want
people
the
frown
money.
on that.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, thank you for the highlights in the back. So I don't know what, like, it was really, I mean, it was quick to write, because I'm, not to toot my own horn, but I'm a little witty. So I was like, doot. And then I had like 10 stances, and I contacted a couple artist friends that I have, and I was like, would you draw? And they were like, oh, we're super busy, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, I was going to commission you, but if you're too busy for me, sorry. And then Sam Smith, the singer, on Instagram posted a picture of a butt that was drawn, like this beautiful illustration of an ass. And I was like, that's gorgeous. So I clicked on the artist that did it, and I started following him, and I was like, he's really good. So then I messaged him, and I was like, hey, I'm writing a kind of semi-raunchy, not really funny book for gay adults. Would you want to illustrate it? How much would you charge? And he was like, how many pages? I was like, 10. And he was like, oh, it's this much. And I was like, okay, what's your PayPal? So I commissioned him like that. I found him through Sam Smith. So thanks, Sam Smith. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a very random thing coming together. I crowdfunded the money to print it, and I raised almost all of it.
Wow.
So, and that was just through GoFundMe and like Facebook people.
Right.
It wasn't even like I should have done Indiegogo, but I didn't even think of it. But yeah, so I crowdfunded, I paid for the printing, and yeah, I'm moving forward. We just have to upload the images, and the artist, he's really sweet. I really, really appreciate him. Like, he's making sure everything is the right size and everything, so that if there's bleed off or anything like that, so that it works.
Yep.
But it has a barcode and an ISBN. Like,
nice.
It's legit.
It's getting there.
It is getting there. It should be hopefully printed and in my hands early 2021.
Wow, that early.
And then I have 60-something pre-orders that I have to write little love notes to an autograph and then ship.
Yeah. Yep. I'll tell you, I'll definitely put my name on that list. A few friends that would love that kind of book. You know, I finally having a taste of what creativity feels like.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that was a hurdle for me. Like, I mean, I guess I feel creative at times, but to do all this, like, I didn't know how to edit. I didn't know how to buy all this stuff, and it was amazing. Huh? You didn't know how to shop? Oh, I can press the button. Okay, I was like, that's easy. But it's when they give me too many choices, like, that's where I get lost. Like, I don't know enough about some of this stuff to know, should I get this or that, you know? So, but it was amazing how many people reached out and said, hey, we're here to help. And other people that had podcasts and, you know, friends in general, you know, so slowly but surely, because, you know, I'm the kind of person where I want things done tomorrow, and I hate waiting. But once I finally, I can't stand it. It's not my strong point. You're so patient, Jeff. So, once I finally learned to calm down a little bit, it was, okay, just pace myself out a little bit. It's going to happen. And then sure enough, here we are, you know, and I'm really blessed to have my son with me. And I say it almost every podcast, but it's been. Pay you. He's like labor of love. He's like an indentured servant right now. He's gonna work his way out. But hopefully, you know, we can take this thing to a whole new level. You know, because Joe Rogan's been a big inspiration for me. Yeah. So hopefully, and I want, you know, the reason why I started this podcast is I think people have really lost the art of conversation, especially nowadays, where, you know, and you and I have had some really deep conversations. And at the end of the day, we still love each other. Yeah. You know, and we don't agree on everything.
I just tell myself we do. I'm
I'm
like, I changed his mind.
yeah, but it's those conversations that do actually get me to think, and I love that part of using my brain where I can see someone else's point of view, and not necessarily change my view, but I want to understand how you got to where you're at. I find that fascinating.
Trauma.
Yeah, some of it. Yeah, some of it is. You know what I mean?
98% trauma. If you know somebody with a dark sense of humor, it's because they're traumatized.
Yeah, I mean that's my sense of humor. So I had a little bit of a rough childhood, and um, that's why I was a little bit tough on him when he was growing up at certain times to do things right and like go to school, do all those things. So when he got out, I didn't have. I mean, my mom was always there, and my stepfather down the road, but when I really made it a point to be in his life, I moved all the way out here to be closer to him and his mom. So, so getting back to this has really kind of helped me break out of my shell a little bit
Mm-hmm.
and then give people a platform to come on here and talk about really whatever they want to talk about. And to have those conversations where two people can be on different sides of the fence, but still, so like when people first meet each other, there's that connection, right? And then sometimes someone's on the left or the right, and then next thing they don't want anything to do with each other. Maybe they see a Facebook post. I really do my best to look past that because it's like again, it's you might have had a different circumstance how you got to where you were. That doesn't mean you're wrong. You know what I mean? But I love having those conversations.
I can't tell you how many people and family members I have muted
Yeah.
on social media right now.
Yeah.
That's also why I went on a vacation. I was like, I can't take it. I'm losing my fucking mind. I don't know why I just didn't say it then. I said it 5 times before, but I'm losing my fucking mind. So I went away and had a really good time and drank way too much. Way too much. We were counting drinks one day, and before lunchtime, my cousin and I each had 6. And then we kept drinking the rest of the day. So I must have had at least 18
Oh
that
God.
day. That day was the one. The next day, I had less hangover than I did earlier in the week.
Did
so,
you really? Yeah.
So that day must have been a 25 day. I never drink like that. I'm not like when I'm at social events and there's a bunch of alcohol flowing. Like I'll drink whatever, especially if somebody else is paying for it.
Right.
Absolutely. But typically in my everyday life, like I don't really drink at home. I have a bunch of booze. I don't drink it. It's there.
Yeah.
Then there's the occasional day where I'm like, maybe today. But usually I don't because I like to be in control of myself.
Right.
As out of control with myself as I am because of the ADD. I like whatever little bits of control I have
Yeah.
over my brain, and they go right out the window with the alcohol. So, yeah, I was not in control of my body for much of Mexico, but it behaved itself pretty well.
You got here in one piece, and
I
really
did.
that's all that matters.
Yeah, I landed in a storm. There was so we landed in a huge tropical storm.
Oh, that would scare the shit out of me.
Uh,
You know how I feel about planes to begin with.
yeah, well, so tropical storm Gamma, we land in, and I was like, okay, where's Alpha? And then Beta came, and I was like, okay, never mind. So Hurricane Beta, the Category 4 hurricane. I don't know if you heard anything about that. That hit while I was there.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah,
Oh,
in the middle
that's
of
so
the week
scary.
I was there. I was like, oh, just they're like, the devastation on the Yucatan Peninsula. And I was like, that's where I am. Don't say devastation.
You look up, you're like, oh my God,
Yeah,
that's me.
I'm like, we'll be fine. The thing that sucked the most about that night was that the restaurant closed. There was no alcohol. There was no alcohol in the rooms. We couldn't get and they moved us to buildings that had been closed since March because of COVID. So they just moved everybody towards the ocean front and closed that part of the resort. So these rooms had not been opened or cleaned since March. They weren't dirty, but they were mildewy.
They didn't have the once over. Yeah.
Ooh. And I was like, it's so hot. All the AC was broken in all of the buildings over there. It was awful, but there was no alcohol or food.
Oh.
That was the worst part of it all. The entrance to the building I was in collapsed. A tree fell on top of that.
Wow.
Crazy things happened. And my biggest qualm is that there was no booze and no food.
Yeah, you have to have standards.
Yes. My priorities were very, very on point. But yeah, so we landed in the storm, and my cousin and I got drunk. And during the storm at night, we ran out on the beach and went in the ocean. There are barely any waves in Cancun because it's kind of in a gulf-ish.
Yep.
So when the waters come, it's calm, and there were
Oh,
like
wow.
waves. So we're
Yep.
like running around. They have red flags up. We didn't notice because like waves here are huge.
Yeah.
So these were like, you know, the little waves that we get. Like
Yep.
that was their big waves.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was like, oh, it's dangerous. I'm like, not to me. I go in high tide, like where it knocks you off.
Yeah,
On
we're from Cape Cod, man.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Blast you right on your ass. So we're running around. The wind is blowing. The trees are blowing sideways. We climbed up one of the lifeguard towers
Yep.
and laid down in the lifeguard tower as the rain and the wind and everything. And we're just like, this is so nice, like drunk. And then the next storm, they wouldn't let us out of the buildings. And I think it might have been because of us.
They took one look at you and they go,
No,
not happening twice.
Not after last time. We don't want to be liable for that. But yeah, it was pretty wild.
Yeah. You know, I'm fascinated with going to other countries and especially like Mexico. And I won that trip a little while ago through work, and I couldn't go, you know, so.
Did that, like, was it supposed to happen during the COVID thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, May 1st through the 4th.
Okay, because I remember when you won.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize, like, it didn't click to me that, like, COVID happened and that you probably never went. Are they just, like, is it on hold until things are better?
They haven't really said too much.
It?
I think I lost it, which that's okay, because I'm sure they'll make it up to me. They're pretty good about it.
Yeah, just throw an email or something somewhere.
Yeah, with a sad face.
I won a contest for this.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, for my Apple Watch. And I was, like, 8 months later, I was like, hey, remember that contest that I won? Where is it? Like, where's my watch?
My last company was notorious for winning stuff and never seeing it, especially when it comes to money. It was bad. Hence, I'm no longer with them.
Yeah.
One of the reasons. But so one of the things that we want to talk about today is two things: mental health, because I think that's super important.
Yes.
Especially as it relates to COVID, because I think that was an absolute ramp up. And then you coming out and how difficult that was and some of the challenges that you have. And hopefully we can help somebody today, you know, if they're having, they're having second thoughts or they don't know who to talk to or those kind of things. So I'll let you have the ball. Which one do you want to start with?
I don't know. Which one do you want to hear about first?
It doesn't matter to me.
Oh, Jesus, Jeff, it's your show.
Let's talk about mental health.
Okay.
As it relates to what's going on now. So, like, what are some of the things that you fought with?
Oh my God. I'm on a whole pharmacy of medication now, and I was only on one thing before all this. So I fought with a lot. I'm like ADHD, still not medicated for that yet, but will be soon, hopefully. And then anxiety. My anxiety with the job I currently have, that shall not be named. My anxiety went from like here, which is way off the floor, but not crazy high, to like, just because of the nature of everything and dollars and numbers and this and that. And I'm like, I'm an artistic person, and I don't care about numbers. Don't tell me numbers. The only numbers I care about are my bank account.
Right.
So it was a big learning curve, and like trying to get my brain to focus on that and remember them. I could look at a spreadsheet 850 times, and the second I look away, I'm like, I don't know what I just saw.
I'm the same way sometimes. Yeah.
Nothing. So it was really, really stressful. So I started going on an anxiety medication for that probably 6 months into the gig. Because, like, I mean, I literally had called HR and I was like, I need help.
Wow.
Like, I don't know what to do. I'm losing my mind. So it was really like that. And then when COVID started, my anxiety like blasted out of the water because I was like, oh my God, people aren't taking this seriously enough. Because there were so many people. I had family members that weren't until they almost got COVID and had to quarantine. And then suddenly it's different. But like the people just were so lackadaisical, and my boss got it and almost like got really, really sick. A family member of his passed away from it.
Wow.
I knew 2 nurses that were friends of mine that passed away from it. So like, it's killed a lot of people that I know of. So I'm like, this is like real. And I have asthma, so I was like, if I get it, I'm dead. But then I was like, I need to go on vacation, and I traveled anyway.
Yeah.
But it's like my anxiety was super high. Depression, so everything stopped, right? like I'm social. I go into 1,000 different places every week. I see new people all
Yep.
the time, similar to what you do. Like we're always interacting with people, and it went from always interacting with people to interacting with one other person that happened to get stuck with me for 3 months. The hookup gone sideways. That's what I call it. He says the hookup that went wrong. And I'm like, that's insulting. That's mean. But it was like the day before we shut down,
Right.
coincidentally. And he spent the night. And then we woke up and it was like, nobody can leave their house, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I guess you live here now.
The door lock goes.
Cool.
click.
Yeah. It's like, no. It was all right. It was nice not being alone. I gained 30 pounds, partially because all he did was cook, like 3 meals a day with
Yeah.
all the butter, like Paula Deen cooking.
Oh, it's my favorite.
Yeah. I was like, I'm
Yep.
gonna die. And then I was like, oh, I've gained some weight. I can't. And he just kept cooking, and then I kept eating. And then there were days where I took literally 200 steps in the entire day.
Oh, I
according
know.
to
I
my
know.
watch and phone,
Yep.
because I didn't get out of bed. Like
Yep.
I was working from bed. Like pulled my work laptop in bed. I made it so the backboard looked like it was a background, and I was just like, doot, doot, doot. I was in bed
Yeah.
like days, weeks, and it was really bad. Like, and I haven't really worked out since. So like all the muscle I had, I see pictures of like when I was in good shape, and I'm like, who is that? So I'm gonna get back there because I need to, just so like, you know, the older we get, the harder it is.
Well, I know.
And it's always been hard for me anyway, so I don't want to backslide and then end up one of those people in Wally.
Yep. Yeah. One of the things I called you on one day was I didn't do a really good job reaching out to you during that time. You know, we got all these different things going on, and I don't know how you fell through the cracks, but I called and I'm like, Joe, first let me apologize for not reaching out as much as I should have. So just to let you know, it still bothers me.
Oh my God, shut up. You're fine. There's no obligation. We all were in our own places and worlds. Like, if I really was like, "Bah," I would have called you. Like, I just was in my own little pocket universe, just like everybody else.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's the most I've ever talked to my father in my life. He
Oh,
called
wow.
me so much, which was great.
Yeah.
It was really nice. Because we talked maybe twice a year before that. So I was like, this is cool. He thinks we're all going to die, so now he's talking to me more. That's nice. Not that we didn't, like, our relationship has been okay for years, but we just didn't talk.
So has it gotten better now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He called me a couple weeks ago. I need to call him back and make sure he's okay. But, just like, it was like 3 or 4 times a week during like March, April, May.
Right.
And I was like, this is the most time I've ever spent talking to my dad. It was like his drive home every day from work. It was cool.
Yeah.
So that was kind of nice. That was a nice thing that happened in COVID. My poor grandmother is going insane. I can't, like, she's like 85, 86. She lives alone.
I can't even imagine being that old and having to deal with this.
I can't go anywhere. And I'm like, I know. I'm sorry. She's like, I'm so bored. Like, so she was like, I'm getting my nails done. I was like, Grammy, that's dangerous. You're in your 80s.
She's like, I don't care.
Like,
I'm 85. I'm going.
doing it. So she's okay though. So that's good. But like, it was really weird. Like, depression for a lot of people was really bad, especially like everything closed down, which it needed to. Like, and I mean, we didn't do it the right way at first. I don't think. Like, it was, I don't know. It was handled really poorly here and other places.
Yeah.
But really poorly here, like in the U.S. And so I think that's why people were like, oh, it's not real. It's no big deal. Because, like, nobody took it seriously at first, even though epidemiologists were like, it's real bad.
Yeah.
We were like, oh, no, it's fine. It's the flu.
Well, there's all these conflicting reports and people in the government that were some of them were saying it's no big deal.
They're
and
never gonna
I
tell
know.
us anything true. Like, I was like, college professors, epidemiologists, all the people that do the research and don't get paid by the government were like, it's bad.
Yeah.
So that's where I was looking. I was like, the people who aren't making money off of this and wouldn't make money off of it either way are saying it's bad. So probably bad.
I freaked out just a little bit in the beginning. when
When you bought all the toilet paper in the world.
yes, I'm glad.
Which I was glad for because I had no toilet paper and I drove out here and got some from you. But I was like, people are hoarding, Jeff, and I need toilet paper. And you were like, oh, I have some. And I was like, you're the hoarder. Cool.
Do you know you were the only person I actually gave some to?
Oh, well,
Yeah. So
good for me.
yeah. For me too is like when I went to the grocery store and I saw the pandemonium in the empty shelves of meat and stuff, and that's when I really started to kind of. I'm like, all right, I got to think outside the box here because this is going to get uglier before it gets any better.
Mm-hmm.
Lucky what I did last time in my previous job, I went to some of the people I did business with. I walked in after being gone for a couple of years, and they're like, what are you doing here? I'm like, I need food. And it was amazing that they were like, okay, grab a shopping cart, let's go. And one of these guys didn't even want me to pay him. He's like, when you get the money, you pay me. And I'm like, and I had money, and I'm like, oh no, that was just very humbling. That all 13 years of me doing business with him, that's really what he thought of me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then so we were fine after a certain point. I stocked up the freezers, and then as a father, I started panicking for my kids, for my wife, my mother, because my father's gone, my son's mother who's disabled. So I have this circle of people that I've been tasked to kind of take care of. And then that's where I started to lose it. Like I can barely get through this mentally on my own. Now I'm tasked to help out other people. But my son is old enough now. He took the reins over his house and stuff like that. So I started to kind of delegate a little bit in a way. And then so I started to feel a little bit better about what was going on. But I mean, with work, my training team developed all these classes to take, and I think that was the pinnacle for me. Like I had something to do every day.
Mm-hmm.
I had faces I could see every day. I could interact with those people.
Thank God for Zoom.
I know, I'm telling you. So I don't know if the training team actually really knows what they did for us.
I'm sure it saved them too. The amount of time and effort that goes into it, and then like being part of it and like monitoring stuff like that, like it takes up a huge chunk.
Sure.
As somebody like, and some of what I do has been interactive, but there have been other things that were completely not interactive that people just watch later.
Right.
And even that, like, it takes up so much time that there's so much less stress in that minute because you're focusing on details.
Yep.
So just as much as it like made you feel better, like you had something to do, something to watch, and like interact and see your coworkers' faces and stuff like that, I'm sure the people that created it, when they were creating it, appreciated the fact that they were doing something and they weren't just sitting there like, "Are we gonna die? What's happening? Like, is it the zombie apocalypse?"
Yeah. Because it was scary, and so, thank God that my friends were close to, you know what I mean? Like we reached out to each other and bounced stuff off each other. And then things got a little even for a little while. Like I could get up in the morning. I knew what I had to do, it was kind of Groundhog Day a little bit, but that kind of Groundhog was mentally for me. It helped me get to the next day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what would you suggest? Because, you've done a lot of research on mental health. You have a YouTube channel. So if you want to plug that right now, definitely.
Life with Joe, AMO. I have to resurrect it. It's been dead since COVID started. I actually have a video recorded that I did 3 days before everything happened.
Oh, wow.
With my friend Scott, who's an incredible musician. He's a recovering addict. Like, it's a beautiful, beautiful video that I need to edit and post. But I haven't done it because, like, I got so stressed. My plan was to, like, dealing with the stress of COVID, how COVID is affecting people with anxiety, because, like, I'm an advocate for mental health. And then I was like, I need to advocate for mine, and I can't do anything. And, like, just curled up in a ball and tried to hibernate for as long as I could. It was really rough, but I need to resurrect it. I've had people, like, get in touch with me that are like, are you going to do it again? And I'm like, okay.
Yep.
I will. But I've moved. So, like, that's another, like, thing. I have to figure out when I could do it so people aren't coming in and out because I don't live alone anymore.
Right.
Which has its pluses and its not pluses. I'm not good at living with people. I've felt like I'm doing a really good job. I don't think that they necessarily agree, but I'm really difficult. So
it's hard living with other people. Like, I can remember when I was young, I had got sometimes up to 5 or 6 roommates, And, I couldn't do that now, no way. But I think even if I had someone else other
You
than
do
my
have 5 or
family,
6 roommates. They're just furry.
that's true. They don't they love me for who I am.
Yeah.
They don't they just listen, even though they probably talk to each other at night and go, "Man, this guy's off his rocker." But you know what I mean. But so what kind of advice would you give to somebody that has any kind of they're going through any kind of mental issue right now, and they just don't know what to do or where to go? What would be the best advice you can give them?
First of all, you're not alone. We're all losing our minds, but specifically if you're like struggling with a mental illness and it's gotten significantly worse, um, there's a couple avenues. So there are actually like text therapy apps
Yep.
that can be really helpful. They're, not super cheap, but they're not really expensive either, depending on if you have health insurance or not. If you don't have health insurance, the therapy apps are way more affordable than actually going to a therapist.
Right.
It's like I think $340 a month.
Are these real people on the other end?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they are.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, it's a computer.
Well,
Yes,
you never know.
it's real, like literally real therapists,
Yeah.
like psychologists. So that's a great way to start. When I started losing my mind and was like, I need anxiety meds, I need something because, like, my depression and my anxiety and everything were going crazy because of work. I called 19 places and I got one call back.
Wow,
So
that's an issue.
it's a terrible issue.
Yep.
My suggestion would be call everybody under the sun, and then hope that one calls you back. The other thing is if you're in the Massachusetts area, if you're near Boston, Fenway Health is incredible. They have all different kinds of providers that they work with within Fenway Health. So
Oh, wow.
like I just my primary care, their office closed at the beginning of COVID, like closed.
Yep.
And then the person who I saw for, I don't know, 12 years started working for the CDC instead. So like I no longer had a PCP at all.
Right.
So I was like, oh, I need one now. Like I need to find a new person. I've been seeing this person forever. They know everything. Like we were like hugging level, like close.
Yeah.
So I was like, shit. So I finally got in touch with Fenway because that's where my psychiatric NP told me I should look into because they're great. They're really they're amazing for the gay community, but they're really amazing just for anybody. They're a really, really good team. So I did, and I reached out and I scheduled an appointment, and they were like, "Oh, do you need mental counseling? Do you need prescriptions? Like, what do you need?" And I was like,
Right.
"You're the only doctor's office I've ever called and made a first appointment with that the doctor during that appointment was like, what else can we set you up for and make sure you're good?" So if you're in that area, call Fenway. They're amazing. There's a couple doctors there that I've met that I love. One of them is just as weird as me, and it's very enjoyable. So if you like weird people, she's for you.
Yep.
Like she's literally was singing my work orders as she typed them into the computer for my
Nice.
blood work. I was like, that's cute. You're crazy. But they're really good. So just find somebody. Reach out. The worst thing you can do is not say anything. But reaching out to somebody and finding somewhere that like they actually will take you serious and listen
Yep.
is huge too. So my psychiatric NP that I see, like when I first saw her, I was like, so this is what I think I have, this is what I think I have, and this is what I think I have. I've done ABCD research, I've read 3 or 4 books, like these are the symptoms I have, this is what I've dealt with. And she was like, you probably have it then.
Yeah.
Like she wasn't like, oh, here you are, like Googling your shit. And,
Yeah.
and I mean, it wasn't just a Google, like I literally have books about them. But I was like, I know that I have CPTSD. Like this is, I just know. So if we could figure that out, and she pointed me in the route of a therapist that is really good working with people with CPTSD,
Yep.
which was great. So finding somebody that listens to you and doesn't just look at you like you're insane, because I don't know if you've seen a psychiatrist, but sometimes you go in there and they're like, it's 10 minutes usually. I don't know why, but they're like, oh, I don't, okay.
That's
how
it,
are you
really? Yeah.
feeling? Yeah.
Wow.
What the first visit might be an hour, and then the rest are like super breezy.
Yeah.
Mine are half an hour. I love who I see because that's a good amount of time.
Yeah.
Because she's not a therapist. She's not my therapist. She
Yep.
just handles my medication.
Yeah. I've had therapy, which is the best thing, and I put it off for years and years and years. I had to wrap up a lot of stuff from my childhood that followed me into adulthood.
Yeah, it doesn't stay there. It doesn't stay in childhood.
No, it doesn't. And I always thought if I just don't think about it, and I do all these other things. It's never gonna rear its
It's like
ugly head.
black mold.
It does.
Grows up inside the walls, and then all of a sudden the house is full.
And I remember the first day I sat down in therapy. Which was great about my therapist was I hate when someone says, "So tell me how that makes you feel." Oh, I want to take a screwdriver and jam it in my eyeball. She just basically sat down with me and she's like, "What's up?" And I immediately started crying, just uncontrollable crying. And she gave me all the time I needed. And then she was like, "All right, let's just start from the beginning." And and the great thing about it was she came to my house, so I didn't have that pressure of going somewhere else and that ride there, the ride back. I felt comfortable in my own home. I could open up a little bit more, and I got through it. And it was about 8 9 months, maybe almost a year, just under a year. I probably should have kept going a little bit longer, but she definitely gave me the tools to be successful. And years down the road, we found each other on Facebook, and I said, I'm gonna friend request her. I don't know if that was weird or not, but she literally changed my life, and I became more humble. I became more caring. Where I had the ability at one time that if I didn't like you anymore, shut you off like a light switch, and never think twice about you. And that was not healthy.
No.
I had the people I care about. Like I always had empathy, but I didn't know how to show it. You know what I mean? I was that whole big tough guy attitude and stuff like that. And as I got older, that just wasn't me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Well, it's toxic.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like we have this vision of what a man's supposed to be, and I fit some of that mold, but other things just didn't feel right to me.
I fit none of that mold. Not maybe the fact that I have hairy arms and legs I fit that mold, but like literally have never fit the like man's man masculine role thing ever.
Yeah.
Which has been a point of contention in my life, or was for a very long time.
Right.
But like my therapist saved my life, guaranteed saved my life when I was a teenager, because I attempted suicide multiple times to the point where I was institutionalized for like a week and a half.
Wow.
And then, oh God, the place was a joke. They had me on so many weird meds, and like I was hallucinating because of the medication. Like it was nuts.
Do you think that's why people don't go
Probably
because
because there are places and people that just don't listen and don't care and decide that they diagnose you with something for whatever reason. Like they diagnosed me with tics because like I jiggle and I fidget. I'm like, is this ADHD?
Yeah.
I don't have a tick.
Right.
Thanks. Like, and I have friends with tics, and their tics are caused by anxiety.
Right.
So like there's so many different reasons for things to occur, and they were just like this medicate. So I was like on antipsychotic, all kinds of crazy ass shit, and I'm not psychotic, not really.
Right.
I joke around that I'm a psycho, but like I'm not literally psychotic. So when they put me on antipsychotics, I started seeing things.
Yeah.
And that was
Which
weird.
is scary.
Yeah, super scary. And then like they put me on one that basically knocks your ass out too.
Right. Well, that's the other thing. A lot of times I hear make either a zombie or you go the other way, and neither one of them is helpful in any way.
No.
You
so
know?
one of and every medication works differently for everybody. So I hate when people tell like a horror story about a medication.
Yep.
And then they're like, nobody else should ever take this. It's terrible, because Prozac works amazingly well for me. It works amazingly well for my mom. My friend Lauren just started it, and she's happier than she's ever been. But I have a friend who reacts really, really poorly to it.
Right.
So if I was like, oh, I might go on this, and he'd be like, that was the worst thing I ever went on. So I don't like doing that because everybody's chemistry is different. There are actually gene tests you can do now, which are super cool.
Yep.
To tell you how you may or may not react to medication, which is really, really interesting. There's a whole lot they can do with genealogy now.
Right.
It's a little creepy, but also really, really cool.
Yeah.
But there were just like one of the antidepressants I was put on when I was a teenager. I was no longer like severely depressed, but I also wasn't ever happy. Like Zombie is literally like, it was the most like even keel, like flatline heart monitor, like ever.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't continue taking this. I'd rather be sad than feel like this, which is nothing. Because it affected everything. It wasn't just like, oh, I don't get really happy or excited or anything. I don't get sad. It was like, I don't, nothing. Like, I'm like, oh, hey.
That's gotta be torture.
It was, I was
Yeah.
like, Jesus. It's like living in a world of gray, which is not like, I don't know. I like color.
Sure.
So I stopped that and like tried a bunch of other things. The psychiatrist I was seeing when I was a teenager was a quack. Like even the psychologist I went to was like, "Oh God, you have an appointment with her again next week. Good luck." Like
That's
just tell
not
her
good.
this is what I think you should be on. Like, and
Right.
that's not good when your therapist works in the same office and is like, "Oh no." So
Yeah.
there were a lot of like wild things, but it was, I don't know where my train of thought was supposed to go, ADHD, but like medication can be very important and very helpful.
Right.
And don't let one person's experience with it make it so that you're afraid to take it. If it's a family member's experience, like your parent, and they're diagnosed with the same thing, that might weigh a little bit more because
Sure.
you probably have similar responses to medications.
Right.
But otherwise, like John Doe down the street who took, you know, Zoloft and then lost his mind doesn't mean that you're going to lose your mind because you
Right.
took Zoloft.
Yeah. So mental illness runs in my family, and somebody in my immediate family had an issue a couple of years ago, and that was very scary. I know we talked about it right live time when it was happening. I happened to be in the car with you that day
Yeah.
when I got the call. So as a person who hasn't dealt with that at all physically, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know which way to go, you know, and I reached out for you for help. And thank God that my wife jumped in and she took care of some of that because I never experienced anxiety like that until it was in my face, and I was just like, oh my God, now I know what that feels like now.
It's debilitating.
Yeah,
Like people joke around about anxiety all the time. They're like, "Oh, I have anxiety." And I'm like, "You have like maybe the most minute bit of social anxiety. Having like a major anxiety disorder or a major generalized anxiety disorder is a completely different ballgame. Like it can be incapacitating."
right.
Um,
And that's what I was seeing. I was seeing
Yeah.
something that was incapacitating somebody to a point where I didn't know what the end result of that was going to be, and the thought of it was very scary.
yeah.
Like,
Well, because most of us catastrophize.
yeah,
So typically, when you catastrophize and you're looking at somebody who's in a crisis, the worst possible thing that you think of immediately is death.
right,
So, like, when you're thinking about an immediate family member that you love not being there anymore, it's really scary. And then you're like, I don't know what to do.
yeah,
Especially when you've never dealt with it personally
right,
yourself anyway.
right.
So
And I almost felt ashamed, like I should have felt that at some point to help her. Do you know what I mean? Like
you were too busy being numb and toxically masculine. Like you couldn't feel your anxiety.
that was way before.
Yeah.
I was already fixed by then.
Oh, well, then I don't know. I was trying to give you a way out,
I
Jeff.
appreciate it. But it was like just something I just never experienced. And when you see somebody there that's literally breaking down in front of you and you can't physically help them, that's, you know, that is an anxiety that I have never felt to this day. I'm glad I haven't felt that, but I also definitely sympathize with people that do. You know, I guess when I was growing up, anxiety and those things just weren't accepted.
No, you buried them.
Yeah,
You buried them deep within
yep.
yourself and you manned up and you whatever because so and so had their whole leg blown off somewhere else and look at them, they're okay. So you
Right.
fucking better be okay too.
Yeah,
Because we're all exactly the same.
yeah,
No, it's mental health still. Like there's still stigmas about mental illness and mental health. And the push is so strong right now. Like probably, I mean, hopefully everything progresses as you grow, but like we're at probably the most progressive stage I've ever seen it in my life that I've been consciously dealing with it.
right.
Like again, there are apps for it. Like celebrities are like the face for some of these apps. Like it's really, really focused on and more understood. I think workplaces still need to progress further.
Yeah,
Some are really great about it. Some of it are like, we care about your mental health. We care about where you are, blah, 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 blah. But when you're like, okay, well, I'm falling to pieces, there's no actual
right,
change.
right.
But the fact that they even acknowledge it at all is somewhere. It's a
Right.
start. But not to make you feel old, but when you were younger, like that wasn't a thing.
It was definitely not a thing. And if I told my mom I had anxiety, as nurturing as my mother was, I don't know if she would have said to me, "Well, okay, let's." I mean, she might have said, "Let's go talk to somebody," but not to the extent what we're doing now for especially our kids nowadays. You know, I saw another person a couple of years ago when I found out my father was going to die. My mom, you know, had a somewhat of a nervous breakdown, and that was really tough to watch her go through that. Because we didn't know what to do for her, and I've known other people that have had this that have gone to like the emergency room, and as long as they don't saying they're going to hurt themselves or
No,
others,
you're dismissed.
they make them leave.
Yeah.
The first time I heard that, I was like, "What?" Like that's a place where I've always been told that if you're in any kind of disarray, that's where you go for help. And
That or the police, which
Right.
is also a terrible call in that circumstance.
Yep. I mean, we're fighting that battle now.
Hmm.
A friend of mine today, who's a cop, one of my best friends, had some really good news today. He was in training, and the whole week's worth of training is for people in crisis and how to. So they're finally the gears are starting to go now.
That's amazing that they're doing, but the police shouldn't be responsible for that in the first place.
Well, that's the thing. We ask them to do a lot of things that they're not trained to do, and not that they don't have a small training, but then again, like you have a guy who is having a psychotic breakdown, who has no idea what he's doing, and we see videos of this all the time where these
Mhm.
people just they're at another level, and they have a knife or some kind of weapon. I don't know what the answer for that is
Th-
short term.
There are people that are trained to deal with it. I think it's figuring out a way to connect the dots. And I mean, we have
How to integrate
enough
them.
technology
Yep.
that it shouldn't be too hard. Like all businesses, all schools, everything went from in-person live digital to like digital within 3 months. Like if
Right.
we can change the entire way that we all function in society in that short amount of a turnaround, we should be able to figure out how to get people's calls to the right people or have the right people be the first response.
Right.
I have a lot of friends who are social workers. I think, you collect people that are similar to yourself.
Sure.
So they're all like mental health workers, social workers, everything. They're literally trained to do that. They are trained for certain physical restrictions, certain things like that. Like they're trained to disarm people if there aren't like all different kinds of things. And social workers don't get paid nearly enough to
Right.
do what they do. But that's who, like, the person that's trained for that is the person who should be dealing with it, not somebody who's supposed to be protecting and serving and dealing with crime.
Right.
Because when you know how to, just like with anything in life, if you're specifically really good at dealing with this one thing and something else happens, chances are good that your reflex is going to be to deal with it the same way.
Right. If you're a hammer, everything's a nail.
Yeah.
Do you think that we had these same, to the extent of the mental illness that we have now,
Oh, yeah. It was
back
just,
then? We just house people in
yeah.
psychiatric
I mean,
buildings and
people lock their kids up. They went to
Yep.
private schools and they were institutions that they never saw their parents again. Like,
Right.
like people just boop, goodbye. Physical disabilities too.
right. That's
Uh,
another one we don't talk about very.
No,
Yeah,
and
that's a great point.
people would schlep their kids with physical disabilities to a special hospital that again they'd never even visit.
Yep.
A lot of
we
the
have one right
time.
down the street that's abandoned now, but it was Belchertown State School.
Yeah.
That was one of those. Yep.
So it's like it's always been there. Humanity, we don't like to look at our shortcomings and our failures and be vulnerable because, as we evolved, vulnerability meant probably dying. So it's really difficult to get yourself to that point. But I think that everybody's so paranoid about what everybody else thinks and looking weak and blah, 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 that
Right.
like it really, and even, 50, 60 years ago, if somebody thought you were weak, that could absolutely affect your life, your job, everything.
Sure.
So, people had walls up because people would have thought of them a certain way and people would have reacted. And it was just like a cycle, like because you're perpetuating everything until you break it.
Right.
But Yeah, I mean, look at how many. If you look back and read stories about things, or like listen to people's kids who grew up with that, how many husbands were abusive,
Right.
and like everybody acted like a happy-go-lucky family, and then
Yeah, you didn't
their
talk about
home
it.
life was
Yeah.
hell.
Yep. Yep.
Like it's crazy. Or dad never came home.
Yeah,
He
Dad
was,
went for milk and never came home.
yep. Dad was at the office until midnight every night, and the office was his secretary. Like there's there's so many things that people did. We're really good at avoiding. Humanity is great at avoiding
Right.
things. So I think that's what a lot of it was, in denial. And people really, especially when it comes to their kids, react that way because I don't know why the instinct is to think that like it's like, oh, if my kid has this, then it's because of me, or like it's a shortcoming of mine, or I failed as a parent, or whatever. But people get so wrapped up in that they're like, no, you don't. No, you can't. Nope, nope, you're fine. No,
Right.
no, because I did a good job. Like you're and it's
Well,
like,
that was my first response. I'm not going to lie. When my person started having that issue, I was very busy with starting a new job and traveling and doing all these things. I'm like, I don't have time for this right now. And then my wife pulled me to the side and she's like, listen, you have time for it right now.
mhm.
But I'm glad that she told me that I need to settle down, listen, and that's something that, I mean, I'm always trying to get better with that and pay attention, and it gets better as I get older and I learn more things, and, conversations like this help out tremendously. Um, but once I finally listened, I felt horrible. Like, you play that rewind button in your head for a minute. You're like, how many times this week did she say, I need some
Yeah,
help?
how many
And
cues were there that I ignored because I was like minorly stressed or busy or had to run out the door or A, B, and C.
right,
And hindsight's 2020 a lot of the time, and it can be really awful when you play things back and you're like, oh,
right,
there were lots of signs that I ignored.
yeah,
But most of us, I mean, we're all wired to be selfish. It's just how you survive. That's why
right,
kids are evil and awful to each other, and that's
right,
why there are bullies and then the kids that are bullied. Like,
sure,
you seem strong, people don't mess with you. You seem weak, people do. Like there's just that dynamic, that like weird animalistic. I swear to God, if Lord of the Flies ever really happened, if a boat or a airplane full of sixth graders crashed on an island, they would eat each other.
yep,
Like it's people are like, oh, kids are. I'm like, no, it'd
right,
be like Piggy would get brain, like all that weird, crazy shit that happens in that book would happen because that's humanity at its base level. It's survival instinct. So
right,
when you have something going on personally, the first person we think of is us. We're in our own head, right?
right,
We know all of our own experiences, or most of our own experiences. So that's where our mind goes. And when something else is kind of inconvenient to that, it's like, shit, I'm dealing with enough myself. Like I don't have time to deal with your shit too. Like
right,
I can't. And then eventually it hits a point where you're like, oh, I have to.
right,
Um, or there are people that don't, and then they never see or hear from that person again. Like I know people that their parents are like dead to them because when they were in crisis, their parents were like, well, I've got to do this and I can't.
yeah.
Like, and so it's good that you turned around. It's good that your wife basically was like slap upside the head.
I'm a typical, guy that I need that slap every now and then to wake me up. And, that's the great thing about having a partner is you bounce each other out, where my shortcomings are, she makes up for me, and hopefully, I support the
I'm
same
sure you
way.
got like one or two pros. I'm sure there's a couple good reasons to keep you around, Jeff.
I do clean. That's probably one of them. Although I don't do windows, but I will vacuum. I love vacuuming. It's one of my favorite things to do. It's very for me. It's very
Cathartic.
yeah.
Like
Like
relaxing.
I bought a new cordless one, like a Dyson, but the cheaper version, and it's amazing.
I want a Dyson so bad.
I have a Dyson, the regular one.
Yeah, no, I want one of the cordless, like the hang-up chargy
Yeah.
Dyson, like because I have cats, and I mean
That's why we
you
have-
have animals, so like fur everywhere all the time, and I have a cute little shark vacuum that's it's great. It works really great, but I've wanted a Dyson for years. Like I am
It is
an
a whole new world.
appliance whore. It's so, and I have been my whole life. Like people are like, what do you? And like some people are all about cars. I'm like, I want that Maytag washer. Like I'm so weird when it comes to appliances and
Yep.
like really nice ones. I'm like, that fridge can FaceTime people. I need it. So Dyson is like the pinnacle for vacuums.
Yep.
Even though people have started using replicas of their technology and Cyclone this and that, but like
Right.
Dysons were the OG, and I really, really want one, and they're pretty.
Yep. The first time I went to go, I made the mental decision. I'm gonna go get a Dyson. So we get to, I think I went to Walmart, and so we're standing there, and of course now I'm faced with 10 or 11 different kinds of vacuums other than a Dyson that kind of look like a Dyson that are far cheaper than a Dyson.
Mm-hmm.
But I came there to buy a Dyson, then so it's this whole thing. And what made me buy one? The guy next to me looks at me, and there was one Dyson left, and he didn't know what to do. He just sat there because he thought I was looking at that particular Dyson. He goes, "Are you going to buy that Dyson?" I said, "I'm thinking about it. I just don't want to spend the money." He goes, "Let me tell you something. I did it years ago. My Dyson finally went after all these years. I came here to get another Dyson, but it's obviously the last one left. Do you want it? Because I'm not going to grab it if you want it." So just for the fact that's the last one, I took it. I get it home, use it one time. I'm like, oh, like
Yeah, they're amazing.
the vacuum gods have
Yeah.
stole its light upon me.
I worked at Lowe's, and I took the floor model off the floor, the one that people are supposed to look at and look pretty, and I took it down and I vacuumed the rugs in Lowe's with it. It didn't look that pretty after, let me tell you, but those rugs looked so good. I got in trouble. But those rugs
It's
looked
worth it.
so good. I was like, look at what this vacuum can do. Like, if we just took pictures, people would buy all of the Dysons. Like,
Yeah.
these things are walked on by thousands of people a day. They look like they're 13 years old after 2 days.
Right.
And, like, brand new. I was like, damn, I think it sucked the concrete from under the rug up. Like, they're amazing.
It is.
Working at Lowe's was good, too.
You worked it. Justin starts next week, right?
At Lowe's?
Yeah.
Good. It's
He was formerly a Home Depot guy, but
so out of the two, Lowe's is typically much better to its employees or to their employees. I don't know if they still do this, but they had a lot of like options to and everybody bonused. Like if we hit sales, I was a cashier and I still got extra money in my check
Wow.
at certain quarters. So I don't know if they still do that, but they did before, and I'm sure when the economy figures itself out, they might again. But it was one of the better corporate jobs I've ever had.
nice. Yeah.
Because they care. They're also like they're really good about diversity. The CEO is the only black CEO.
Oh wow.
So it's just a really upstanding company as opposed to like Home Depot, where Home Depot their CEOs donate money to like super crazy conservative like kill the gay like things and all kinds of stuff. I'm like, I will never go in.
Do they have one of those kill the gays?
Oh, there's
Do
a
they?
lot
Yeah?
of there's places all over the place that are like, there's conversion therapy, which a lot of places are
that's
outlawing.
brutal.
Thank
That's brutal.
God. 75%, I think it might even be higher than that, of kids that go through conversion therapy kill themselves.
Ugh.
And the people
I just
that
watched a
run
special on that the other day, and I was like mortified.
the people that run it are like better off dead than gay.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yep.
so fucked up. So there's like they've donated money to people that support that, to causes like that. There's like other things in other countries that they like
Yep.
places. It's so messed up. So I'm like, I will always love Lowe's. And Lowe's is nicer inside.
It definitely is. I think he's gonna have a much better time. Plus, he's good at what he does. Flooring was his thing, so he definitely has a lot to offer. So, what was it like for you to come out, and what were some of the challenges that you had? 'Cause I can't even imagine what that would have been like for you to go through that.
Coming out was fucking hell. It happened really weirdly. So it was just National Coming Out Week or Day the other week, but I just relived a very short, brief moment on Facebook of what I went through. But like, it was a mess. I lived in rinky-dink Raymond, New Hampshire at the time, which is like it kind of looks like it does out here.
Right.
A really small town, lots and lots of trees. I moved there from Methuen, Mass, which is like a small city.
Yeah.
So I went from a small city where like I'd been my whole life. So even though I was super effeminate and whatever, like very obviously gay, even though I didn't know what gay was,
Right.
like I had friends. Like I was just who I was. Everybody already knew me, and it was fine. To moving to this like it's not super hillbilly, but hillbilly town
Sure.
where people like have animals and they go mudding and they drive like those tropes that super hyper masculine and like the women does this and this thing were kind of still intact. Like it wasn't as bad for women. Like, it wasn't like 50s housewife-ish because they were like kind of rough and tumble, but still, it was like the men were like, I have a truck and I do this and I was like, oh, cool. I don't. They're like, want to go? Like, it was just so bizarre, and I was made fun of from day one when I moved there, like literally day one until I moved away.
And what grade?
I moved there in 5th grade, and I
Okay.
left at the end of my freshman year.
Oh wow.
So it was a long
That's
time
long,
of
yep.
torture. I can't tell you how many people got suspended because they fucked with me, and I don't deal with that very well.
Sure.
I'm like, I'll rat your ass right out. Like, excuse me.
Yeah.
So, and one of the teachers got fired too.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a mess. But in 8th grade, the coming out publicly started. I told my mom, I think when I was 13, and then I love my mom. She's so cute. She was like, "Are you sure?"
I feel like I know her, by the way, because all the years I've known you so far and all
Yeah.
the conversations we have, like I feel like I could pick her out of a crowd of people and say
you
that's
absolutely
Joe's mom.
could. If you like looked at a lineup, you'd be like, "That one." She looks a little cray cray. No, but she was like, "Are you sure? Have you tried it with the girl?" And I was like, "No." And she's like, "Well, how do you know if you haven't tried it?" I was like, "How did you know?" And she was like, "Okay." So like that was how that ended.
Yep.
My dad found out after the mental institute thing, and it went through this weird spiral for him where he like blamed himself first for like not raising me manly enough.
Yeah.
even
See,
though
I
he
don't
tried.
understand that. You know, me and Justin had conversations when he was growing up. Like, if that were to happen, we had the guy jokes and stuff like that. But if that was his route that he was going to go down, right, Justin, I would have supported you wholeheartedly.
Good.
I don't get how sometimes, like, especially if it's your child and your child comes out to you and says, I'm gay, how you don't still embrace that child. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? If
Nothing.
you know what I mean, that's
Like
what I
the
don't
worst
like.
thing that's going to happen is they fall in love with somebody who also has a dick. Like,
Yeah,
so
you only get one shot at life, and if you can't get through life having the
it's just
to fall in love with somebody, I don't care who it is. That's
indoctrinated fear. Like,
right.
it's how people are raised, and like, so my family's Roman Catholic, or like Catholic. I don't actually know anymore. It's been so long since I've gone to church, but something Catholic, and like in the Catholic Church, it's still a big like.
Yeah, it's a no-no.
The Pope now is the most progressive Pope there's
Right,
ever been, which
right.
is wild. But like it was very wrong. He was raised that way. Then I'm sure my grandfather, when he was younger, was homophobic. Like when my dad was young, my dad's biggest fear or like biggest insult was fag or gay. Like that was it. Like if he really
Right.
was like upset or pissed off, like that's the word that he would use, because to him that was like the worst possible outcome, the worst possible thing. And growing up knowing that and then being like, oh, that's what I am, is like really fucked
yeah.
up. You're like, my dad's gonna hate me. Like he's gonna fucking hate me. And he found out shortly before I went to the loony bin. That's what I call it. And I told my stepmom, because like my mom already knew. And I actually, yeah, because I went in freshman year. So 8th grade is when I told my mom.
Yep.
8th grade is when I publicly was outed. I told 2 of my best friends, and they told the entire school.
Oh.
So I don't know how much of a best friend they really were. They also, like, looking back, they were not really my friends at all. I consider them friends now, funnily enough. But like back then, like I would cut myself and they'd be like, slice, slice, ha, 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 and like make fun of me. I was
Right.
like, that's awful. But at that time, they didn't ignore me or like openly bully me. So I was like, you're my friends.
Yeah.
But I told them, and they told everyone. And then they told the kid that I had a crush on him, and he like spit his water out and like started gagging. It was like so ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that was how I came out.
Right.
Like this, like I'm telling you a deep dark secret. Please like don't tell anybody, to the entire school finding out, everybody looking at me even worse than they already did. I mean, I don't know how I could have been hated anymore. I was the most bullied kid there, but
Wow.
like it was nuts. And then in freshman year, that's when I went to the hospital. But my dad found out beforehand because I told my stepmom, and I was like, please don't tell Dad. I'll tell him when I'm ready, whatever. And of course she told him.
Sure.
So my dad calls me, and we were camping. So he found out in the middle of our camping trip and then just pretended everything was hunky dory for him until the end. And then he called me like a week later and he was like, Joey. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, Laura told me something. And I was like, okay. She told me that you were gay. I was like, yep, I am. And meanwhile, I'm like, fuck you. Why would you tell him? And I was like, yep. And she also told me you had a boyfriend. Yep. Is that true? He goes, is that true? And I was like, uh-huh. And my boyfriend's sitting next to me on the couch, right? Like, we're in my video game room playing, like, Final Fantasy, whatever, like, being super nerdy. And I'm having this conversation with my dad on the couch with Jason sitting next to me. And he's like, well, if I ever meet him, I'm going to kill him, and then I'm going to kill you. And then he hung up.
Is that what he said?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
So that was my dad's experience with that. Then I went to the mental institute for, attempting suicide for whatever time. And he at first reacted like, oh my God, it's my fault because I didn't do this and I didn't teach him how to play football and yada, yada, yada. And then it spun to like, it's your fault to my mom.
Oh.
Like, you let him play with dolls and walk around in high heels. It's all your fault. Like, it's nobody's fault.
Right,
It's
yeah.
just who I happen to be. It was just really like rough. And then I moved. So after freshman year, so everybody knew I was gay in that school. They finally started to be nice to me the end of freshman year. So like it took 6-7 years for them to be nice, and then I moved.
Do you think that's just the progression of children, where now they're a little bit older, their brains work differently? No,
it's just they got used to me enough and dealt with it a little bit better, because. So I'll tell you about the teacher that got fired first. So we had ISSR, in school suspension, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was in that because I never went to school, and I was like,
Yeah. Why would you want to go to school when you're?
Didn't want to. Who would want to when you're that? So like that person dealing with everything, but I still got really good grades. Like, I'm smart. I just didn't go because it was hell.
Yeah.
So I got ISSR for something, and I was in there, and the guy was like very, very religious, which is fine. Like, believe whatever makes you happy. Like, I don't know. I don't judge other people. Like, I'm pretty not religious. I'm pretty atheist.
Yeah.
But if it brings somebody peace and like makes you happy and fills a hole that you need filled, good. Great. Just don't try to force it down my throat.
Right.
Like, do whatever makes you happy, and I will do what makes me happy, and we can both be happy simultaneously while not on the same road.
Yeah.
But he was like, everybody needs to be on my road. And first, like, a public school is not where you should be doing that anyway. But like, he was like, this to this, and being gay is a sin, and it's a choice, and blah, 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 blah. And I I'm this meek, chunky kid with all these kids who were always in ISS because they were like hooligans and bullies and like dented things and all kinds of crazy shit and like smoked in the bathrooms, like, and I'm like this little homo sitting there, and I was like, it's not a choice. And he was like, what'd you say? And I was like, it's not a choice. I'm gay, and why the fuck would I choose to be treated the way that you all treat me? Like, it's not a choice. And that shut him up. And then I went to the principal, and then he was gone.
Wow. So talking about religion, what's your take on if a gay couple went to have the whole controversy with the wedding cake, where one guy was religious and he didn't want to make the cake, and then they end up taking him to court? What's your take on that?
It's discrimination. It's like if they didn't want to make a Muslim couple a cake. It's like, first of all, why don't you want money? But second of all, like...
But let's just say, for the sake of argument, like, that's really his religion. Like, that's... Because I'm the kind of person where if I'm going to go into business, I'm just going to make a cake for everybody. That's just how I roll. But if we want to respect everybody's who they are and what lane they fall in, my whole thing is, couldn't you go down the street and find someone else to make a cake? Like, I don't know.
Maybe not.
Well, so come to find out, that particular instance, they actually went to a bunch of different places that would make the cake, and then they had a problem with the guy that didn't make the cake. But what's your take on that? What do you?
I mean, There's a lot of reasons to not serve somebody. I don't think that their religion or sexuality should be one of them to anybody, regardless of like how you personally feel. If you're in business and you run a public business, then that's one thing. If you want to be more privatized and advertise yourself as like the Christian cakes, then maybe that would make more sense.
That is a good point.
But if you are just a regular public bakery and somebody's like, "Oh, I want a cake for my wedding," and you're like, "Oh no, you're gay."
Yeah.
No, I do not believe in that. And I'm sure the delivery was much different than like, "Oh, I'm really sorry." It just goes against my belief. I'm sure it was something more aggressive and probably insulting.
Right.
And that's why they were like, "Ooh, well, fuck you, I'm gonna sue your ass." So, because it's always like that. It's not. I have a friend who lives in Utah who's gay and was, part of the Mormon church and left. But like the shit people still say to him, the things that people like, there's letters that go around in neighborhoods. In the neighborhood nearby him, there was a letter that went around and went specifically to one house because they put a pride flag up, and they're part of the church, but they put a gay pride flag up because even though they're not supposed to believe in gay people and believe in blah, 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 which is the weirdest phrase to me.
Right.
When I was in school, I had a friend who was Jehovah's Witness, and she's like, "Well, we don't believe in gays." I was like, "What am I, fucking Tinkerbell? Like, clap if you believe in fairies? Like, I'm right in front of you. I'm here.
This is real."
Yeah, like, you can't not believe in me. Like, I'm here. You cannot
I'm not like the
agree with
elusive
right?
Bigfoot.
Exactly. Like, it's such a weird way to phrase it, but like, whatever. They don't believe in that. They don't believe in this. And they sent this harassing letter that was like, "Do you think that you're really presenting the morals that you might believe in? And are you living by the church's this and this and this? And, you can do whatever you want, but think about the message you're sending to your neighbor." Like all kinds of crazy shit. This is 2020.
Religion is a weird, some people get, I don't even know what word to use. Religion. We fought wars over religion, and
all the crusades. People were slaughtered.
It still continues to haunt different sectors of the world, and
always will, and I don't know why.
It's because
most of their books say the same damn thing.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm like, y'all know that you got the same book, right? It's a different language.
Like God loves everybody except for you and you.
Well, and then it's like, behave like this. Here are your commandments. Do this. But in this one book over here that was misinterpreted, it says, like, we took it as don't be gay. It also says don't eat shellfish. It says don't wear a cloth of more than one fiber. So anybody with a polyester cotton blend, you should be stoned to death.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many things in that same exact part of the Bible that were all like, shrimp, yay, but fuck the gays. And it's so fucking weird to me. I'm like, that was supposed to be about pedophiles, right? Like, it was men shall not lie with boys as they do with women, not men. And also, if we can eat shrimp and lobster and wear pleather and all these other things, I think the one last thing there that you're hyperventilating about and like losing your shit on, you might want to let go too.
So you know more about the Bible than I do. I'm pretty impressed.
Yeah. Well, and it's in the Old Testament, which is even crazier.
Right.
Like, it's not in the New Testament, which is what everybody, like, after we were all saved and whatever shit, like, that's the part of the Bible that you're supposed to follow. But this old ass shit from the Old Testament, which is absolutely absurd, is what people like grip to. And I'm like, doesn't it say love thy neighbor and like treat others well and like only God can cast the first stone? Like what are you doing? Do you believe in what you believe in, or like, I honestly feel like I have friends that are super Christian and they live by like Christian values, and they are some of the most wonderful people I've ever met. And then there's a lot of people who are like, I'm a Christian, and they wield it like a fucking weapon.
Well, that's the thing. It can always be used as a tool how they want to see fit. You know what I mean? For their own narrative.
But I'm like, do you just like calling yourself that because you think you might want to go to heaven someday?
Right.
Like, because you're not, all the things you do, like, I'm a much better person than you are. And I don't even believe in heaven, but I'll probably get there before you if it exists.
Right to the front of the line.
Right? Yeah. I'm like, the things you've done to me are astounding. So I can only imagine how you treat other people.
Yep.
So it's like religion and homosexuality and like being who you are is weird. It's illegal to be gay in certain other countries. It's like punishable by death still. Like
That's
there's a
scary. We see a lot of videos where they're throwing people off buildings, and I can't imagine being in that environment and seeing those things and knowing that could be my um,
Mhm.
demise if I'm that way. And
Oh yeah, and
you
they
know,
catfish out there. They're literally out there any way that they can, undercover,
right?
trying to find these men to kill them.
Yep.
But so it's like straight guys will pretend to be gay guys to lure gay men in to murder them or throw them off the roof and like
Yep.
or just put them in jail forever. Then there's the concentration camps in Chechnya for gay people. I don't know if you know about that.
I've not heard that.
It's been a few years. It's been happening for like 3 years now, four
You
years.
look that up, just
But there's the guy, the president. I don't even know what he is. The czar of Chechnya is a fucking lunatic, and they basically rounded up all the gay people and put them in concentration camps.
Wow.
And the rest of the world, like, there's a little report here and there about it, and then that's it. And Russia completely supports it because Putin is Putin. And it's just so wild.
Well,
to
he's
me.
very anti-gay and he's very open about that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's really wild to me that like things happen and nobody talks about them, and they're happening. There was a oh god, I can't remember if he was Russian or Chechnyan, but there was a singer, like a prevalent pop star of theirs, that was known to be gay, and he went home for somebody's wedding and disappeared.
Wow.
Just disappeared.
This day and age,
Yeah.
it's
it's
disgusting.
because
Yeah.
he was either murdered or put in one of those camps.
Right,
Like,
right.
It's really, really scary. I have a couple gay friends in Russia that are still in the closet. They'll never come out unless they move to the U.S. because if they come out, they could end up in that camp. They could be like their parents will disown them, like everything.
I
all of
can't
that
imagine what
shit.
that fear feels like.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, it's got to be debilitating.
It's terrifying here. Like it was terrifying coming out here and thinking like my dad might kill me or the hillbillies might kill me. Never mind that the entire country you live in wants to round you up and throw you in a pen. Like which has happened historically too many times.
Yeah, I mean, I think now, especially now, I have a lot of friends on the right. It's not on their radar. As much as we like to think that they are, they could care less, really.
Mhm.
And I think that's getting better and better as time goes on. I think it's definitely still a challenge, though. So with that being said, like, what kind of advice would you want to give somebody, especially a young person who needs to come out, who's struggling with that fear and that anxiety of what if and what?
You have to come out in your own time. It's not up to anybody else when you come out, which is really, really important. And
Yep.
like there are people I know that have dated people that are in the closet that are like, I can't take it anymore. And like you might be in a relationship and lose it because of that, but that shouldn't be the reason why you come out as well. Like it needs to be on your own time when you feel comfortable. Chances are pretty good somebody in your family already figured it out.
Yep.
And like when my family told my grandfather before he passed away, he was like, "Do you think I don't know that Joey's gay? He's my grandson. What am I gonna do? Like
Right,
whatever." Which typically grandparents are much better about things than
Right.
they were to their own kids.
Sure.
But it like it's not anybody else's choice, but find someone, whether it's like a best friend, whether it's a school counselor that can't say shit to anybody, whether it's a person online, just it's okay to just let somebody know. And I feel like it's a lot safer these days, depending on where you are, to come out more than it ever has been. Like the spectrum and the fluidity that people are accepting of now, especially younger generations, is so much more advanced than when and I'm not old, but like 15 years ago, it was not like that when I was a teenager.
Right.
Like there weren't pronouns. There wasn't like nobody recognized like somebody who was non-binary. Like
Right.
it was very, very, very different. So I think we're moving in the right direction more and more all the time. There will be people who will dig their heels in and try to stay in the past or like say that it's not real. But like, what? It doesn't hurt anybody. Like, why? That's the thing that blows my mind. I'm like, if it doesn't affect you, what the fuck does it matter to you? Like,
Right.
if you're not the gay one, why do you care?
Yeah. Yeah, I never understood that either. Did you look that up?
Yeah, they started in 2018, and like apparently Bush has a very conservative, and the president's buddies with Putin.
Yeah,
And
so it's
even
all
the New York
cyclical
Times
here.
mentioned the same thing about what you said about the people going undercover and stuff too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's insane. That's insane. With all this Me Too movement, all this kind of stuff, I really had to do a little research too. Like I was not used to some of this.
I could talk for hours about Me Too. I'm like the biggest feminist with a dick there is. So
Yeah,
like if you
yeah.
like we could go there if you want to because I'm like down with the patriarchy. Like I'm crazy.
Yeah.
So
So like for me, like, is there something like 90 something different pronouns now or genders? I had to kind of dig into that and be like, because the last thing you want to do is I don't want to disrespect anybody if I don't, but I didn't understand.
mhm.
I understand a small part of it, but as it grew and, people came out with, different genders and stuff I really dug my heels in and said, I need to figure this out. Like, I don't want to be
At
disrespectful. I
least you tried to
care.
figure it out.
Well,
Like
and I do that a lot. I talk a lot about when we are, even from a political standpoint, I tell people this: don't believe a word I tell you. Do your own research and figure it out. And then if you have a question about what I say, come back and we'll talk about it. So I think doing your own research is huge important. I don't think anybody, I can't say anybody, a lot of people don't do that.
mhm.
So I'm always up for expanding my horizons, thinking outside the box. I don't want to be labeled as one person either. I don't want to label anybody unless that's the label that they ask for, But so getting used to the different pronouns and those kind of things. And I read a lot of stuff, and I got to tell you, it was an eye opener for me. I learned a lot. Having conversations like this helps tremendously. So, I don't know what it's like for someone to fight that feeling of where I can't come out, I can't be who I am, because I am who I am. Like, so, but I don't have to fight all the stigmas that someone who comes out has to fight. And I remember being in Colorado last year and watching one of our famous people talk on stage, and he came from a sect of almost like Amish but not Amish. I forget
Mhm.
what the exact one was. And the day he came out, his church threw him out publicly in front of the rest of the church. And I remember I sat there and I started to cry. And everybody around me, like Nancy and them guys, they start taking out Kleenex and handed it to me. And I don't realize, but behind me is like 5,000 people,
Mhm.
and I'm crying. And I'm trying not to cry, but it was such a moving conversation that he was telling. Like, I've never experienced that personally, and I can't imagine someone else having to do that. So, kudos to you for coming out. Kudos for you to having the balls to do that.
I mean, I didn't really.
Well, I mean, eventually, but it was a road,
Yeah.
and bumpy as it was.
Well, I wasn't. So when I moved, because I moved at the end of freshman year to Epping, New Hampshire, which is the hillbilly town right next door to Raymond.
Yep.
I chose to be out when I started.
Yep.
And that was hell too. Like my entire 3 years there were hell. But I was like, I'm not going back in.
Right.
Like I can't not be myself. And then at that point, I was like, fuck everybody. I'm gonna make you all uncomfortable.
Sure.
There were 110 people in my graduating class. Like it was there were 400 people in the whole school.
Oh wow.
It's like a small town. And I would go in my mom's skirts, and I would wear like ugly makeup. I wasn't good at it. Like my fashion sense had not developed, and I looked like shit. But people were like fucking thrown all the time, and I was like, good. Be off balance, like maybe you'll figure some shit out. And then what's the funniest part of everything is that I went to prom senior year in a dress, and the school wasn't going to let me, and I had to make this big fucking stink. And I was like, I'll go to the news. You want me to go to the news? I'll go to the news. Like, I want to go in a dress. That's just who I am. I'm not doing it to, like, start anything. Just let me do what I want to do. It's a fucking dress. It's more clothes than some other things. Like, come on.
Right.
So, needless to say, they finally agreed to let me. And I have a few like teachers to thank and like nurses that like talked to the people that were like so against it. And they were like, what if that was your kid? And they were like, oh. And I'm like, why is it so hard to fucking wrap your head around shit?
Some people, they don't want to change. They don't want to look at themselves. They don't want to do the work.
Nope.
And I say that constantly. People don't want to do the work. It's there's a big spectrum on doing the
Yeah.
work.
And I mean, I don't
Yeah.
like to do a lot of work either, so I get it. But so I went in a dress, and that was when people started to respect me,
Right.
which is wild to me. Like, people were like, "You got balls. I can't believe you actually came in a dress." I was like, if this is what it took, I would have come in a dress years ago. I would have shown up to prom as a freshman in a dress.
Yeah,
Like, what
yeah.
the fuck? Like, but I think they were just like, that's some fearless shit right there, because we're a bunch of hillbillies.
Right,
so
right.
it's just, it was really weird.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I just can't imagine that. And all right, buddy, we're at the time,
Okay.
so we can definitely come back and do this again. I'd love to hear more.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for coming in. That was an absolute honor to have you here today. I'm very blessed to have you in my life.
Oh, thank
So
you. I am
you know
too,
how much I love
to
you.
have you in my life. Not that, but yes, I love
So
you too.
why don't you plug your book one more time?
If you give a gay a grinder, it's not out yet. It will hopefully be physically in my hands. Like, I'll have 500 copies to distribute myself at the beginning of 2021. It's a $30 price point because it costs a lot of money to get this shit printed.
So when that book comes out again, we'll have you back.
Okay.
We'll bring the book with you. We'll show everybody the book. Right?
It might make some
Hey,
people uncomfortable.
That's okay. This is what this podcast is about.
There's like, in one of the pictures, not in use, but there's a butt plug in the
Yeah,
background.
well, people have seen worse.
Yeah. One of our educators took a picture real quick. So she lives in Vermont, right? And she's walking her dog down the road, and she took a picture. Somebody threw a butt plug out the window. There was a butt plug on the side of the road in the middle of Vermont. Like, what the fuck?
The things you see in Vermont.
Right? I'm like, who just throws a butt plug out the window of their car? Like, I'm done with this. Like, the hell?
Oh, that's funny. All right. So again, we'll have you back on.
Yeah.
We'll bring the book.
Sounds good.
So thank you very much for coming on the podcast today. Do you want to plug your YouTube channel one more time?
Yeah, Life with Joe AMO. There are videos there already. There's a decent amount, like, I don't know, anywhere from 5 to 8. I can't remember now, but there will be more. I will try. Hopefully this was coherent to some degree because, again, I'm super ADHD, so
It's okay.
I'm sure it's all the fuck over the place, but I tried.
Listen, everybody that knows you loves you.
Yeah.
I mean, who else?
I'm like a zoo animal.
I get into an account. I'm like, we got to call Joe. And I'm on FaceTime. Let's get Joe on the phone.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty, I don't know. I'm special.
Yeah, we all are.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. I love
right.
you. And
Love
we'll
you
see you on very shortly.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Bye, guys. And thanks again. Hit the like button, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye.